Hey, everybody, welcome back to the next episode. And today we have Big Mountain Foods, Kimberly Chamberland. Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Yeah. And let me tell you a bit about the Big Mountains. Founded in 1987, Big Mountain Foods makes natural vegan products out of real and fresh ingredients. The Vancouver-based manufacturer has been a supermarket mainstay since the inception due to quality of their plant-based products, as well as the loving care put into the creation. Coming from 4 generations of entrepreneurial women, Big Mountain Foods also prides itself on being entirely female-owned and 90% female immigrant workforce. Well, that's amazing. I love that.
Yes, definitely take great pride in that.
Awesome. So I actually had met Kimberly's daughter at the Vegan Expo last weekend, and I actually tried some of their products. So it's very, very good, by the way. So I would highly suggest you guys go pick it up. Here it is.
Thank you.
We'll talk about that in a minute. You're welcome. So tell us a bit about, like, how did this all come about? How did you guys get started, and how did you get to where you're at today?
Well, first of all, it's just in my blood. My mom has been a vegetarian. Well, vegetarian was the word back then. Vegan wasn't even the word.
Yeah.
So we were raised pure vegetarians, no meat, fish, or eggs, my whole life.
Right.
So once and it was for religion. Also,
Right.
it's just always been a part of our family culture. So when it was time for me to start my career, I was actually going to get into the fashion industry.
Okay.
And my mom said, I think there's another calling for you. And, in the religion, there was always big festivals and lots of cooking and food and more food. And
Right.
I was, I guess, very talented at that in my youth. And she had a good friend of hers that had a company. It was called Simply Wonderful Foods. And he made products like carrot brownies, tofu burgers, veggie burgers, carrot cake, these kind of things. And he sold to different universities and trendy little coffee shops and, health food stores. There was no Whole Foods or Starbucks back then. And he was moving back to the United States and he wanted to sell the company. And he had approached my mom saying, I think, you should talk to your daughter about this. I'll sell it to her for $5,000 and she can make me payments. And then I was cursed into the food industry. No, it's been a blessing. And so that's where it all began.
Right.
And the kitchen that he had, half of it was a gentleman, John Ciparroni, who invented frozen pizza.
Okay. Yeah.
And imagine that in our lifetime, there was once upon a time, no frozen pizza.
Wow. Hey.
It's like a cell phone. So anyways, clearly that was a brilliant idea and it just started exploding. And I was piggybacking off of his enthusiasm and just being very competitive. And he was approaching companies like Safeway, like bigger,
right.
Whereas the mentality of the company that I bought was more mom and pop health food stores, like that kind of thing.
Right.
And so I one day, my husband at the time, we had a mailbox truck, the little guy on the right-hand side driving.
Yeah.
And I had a stool and I'm sitting on the stool and I walked into Safeway head office, didn't know, got to schedule a meeting, all this stuff, and walked in there and they looked at me and I had a bamboo basket with 18 different products, a burrito, a muffin, cookie, all this stuff. And he just, the lady says, okay, just hang on 1 minute. And she went and got the big head honch there.
Right.
And he came out and he looked at me and he's like, this is just crazy. And he brought me in and I did a presentation to him, and I told him, I said, let me be in your delis and I will guarantee the sale. Whatever doesn't sell, I'll take back. That's how enthusiastic I was and
Right.
competitive, because this John Chipperoni had landed Safeway.
Yeah.
And he said, okay. And so by this point,
Oh.
I had a little vegetarian restaurant in Kitsilano on
Yeah.
Cornwall.
Okay.
And I had this brilliant idea. I'm 22 years old that, yeah, let me back up. That I had to move out of the other facility because John Chipperoni was getting bigger and bigger.
Right.
We were getting bigger and bigger. I was young and all over the place, and I decided I needed a restaurant. So I opened a restaurant, and my thought process was, we can make all these products and sell out the back door. It'll take care of all the overhead.
Right.
And it'll be a beautiful world. Oh, Lord. And those were my childbearing years also.
Right.
So here I am, 23 years old, 3 children, a restaurant, and a wholesale business. And so the wholesale business started exploding. I landed 85 Safeways.
Nice.
And I was running around making one day, delivering one day, like doing everything.
Yeah.
And I saw the gentleman, Barry was his name, that gave me the opportunity, and I'm 8 months pregnant. At this point, the Safeway crew was all coming to my restaurant. The Safeway McDonald 22 on McDonald and Broadway.
Right.
They were coming to my restaurant, and we just had this beautiful relationship. And it was 100% vegetarian. And these were deli workers. They were not vegetarian. He looked at me and he said, you need to simplify your life a little bit here. Like, you're only human. You need to come up with something that is more of a shelf life.
Right.
And we'll try it out in produce. And that's when Eves had he came out with the hot dog.
Okay. Yeah.
So I did a veggie burger,
Right.
and we put it in a tube bag and had all the packaging, UPC code, all that stuff. And it had a 14-day shelf life. I was like, wow, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah.
And it just started taking off from there. I sold the restaurant and just focused on, wholesale. And then that journey went on for a while. It wasn't the easiest. I didn't have a lot of business experience. I was learning the hard way.
Right. Yeah.
And I kind of got into a bad deal where I had signed an exclusivity with the distributor. Right. That was very bad. And so I kind of lost 6 years there.
Right.
Got back into, stayed in there, but got into real estate and whatnot. And, that was a nice little business over there, but I wasn't working it like I was when I first bought it.
Right.
And then my daughter, I opened up a plant in South Vancouver, and my plant manager at the time had to go back to the UK. And my daughter, Jasmine, had just graduated from business school. And she had one job. And I started seeing her sort of turning into something that wasn't helping her flourish.
Right, right.
She was just a number in a company and wearing her little sweater. And her nickname was Spazzy Jazzy in her youth. Like, she's a firecracker.
Yeah.
And so I called her up one day, said, meet me for lunch, Jasmine. And we chatted, and I says, you've been with Big Mountain since you were born. 1987, Jasmine was born.
Right.
I said, why don't you come and work with me? Look, Beyond Meat is taking off. I think it's time. Finally, people used to say, what do you do? Oh, you make veggie burgers? What? And then beyond, it felt like it was time.
Yeah.
Finally. And she said, okay. And I matched her wage with where she was working. And the rest is history. we started to evolve where she had celiac, she has celiac. And so we started recognizing that all the plant-based products out there they all had wheat gluten in them
Right.
at the time. Now there's other
Yeah.
options, but it was all wheat gluten or soy.
Yeah.
So we changed our veggie patty to being gluten-free.
Right.
Then we created a cauli crumble, and the cauli crumble had walnut meat in it from walnuts.
Right.
And we were demoing at Safeway, and we were doing these little pizzas, and this little girl had like 3 pieces of this pizza. And the mom was like, wow, this is incredible. She's getting all her vegetables. She doesn't even know she's eating vegetables. This is awesome. She looks at the ingredients and she says, she can't take it to school. It has walnuts. So right then and there, the light bulb went off, and we decided we were going to devote Big Mountain Foods to being allergen free.
Right.
So that's where the allergen free part evolved.
Yep.
So that's how it all started.
That's amazing. So now, what's one of your biggest challenges now? Because I know, we've obviously talked off screen here and stuff, and I talked to Jasmine. And what's one of your biggest challenges? I know you guys you're moving to a 70,000 square foot facility. So I know, I mean, geez, that when I say what's one of the biggest challenges, we could probably do a 4 hours just on the move there. But what are one of your biggest challenges right now of where you guys are at?
Well, that's a loaded question. I would say that the biggest challenge is not having any idea what the challenges are going to be. You can't even plan for it.
Yeah,
you can't plan for COVID.
That's a good answer.
You can't plan for a Mother Nature to have a drought or fires.
Yeah.
War.
Yeah.
That I would say that's the biggest challenge. What you start out one direction, and you have to be very, I guess, docile. You have to be willing to take a left turn real quick.
Right. And so how is it, this is a great question. I think people appreciate this question. Well, I don't know if it's a great question. I just said that. Mother-daughter working together. I come from, my first business was me and my mom working together. So I can say we definitely had some challenges at the start. I was a lot younger too, so I wasn't near as mature as I am today, right? So I was still growing up at the same time. But how is it you two working together as a team?
It's 5-star.
That's amazing.
Absolutely 5-star. Again, we had challenges in the beginning, sort of feeling each other's place and role. And definitely she was a lot younger back then.
Yeah.
So she's matured a lot. I think the number one key to our success is respecting one another and respecting what she's good at and her respecting what I'm good at. And I have 100% faith in Jasmine. It's awesome. It's so awesome that her and her husband bought a house next door to me.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
So not only do we work together, but we live next door to each other. We're also lifetime boaters. Her and her husband bought a boat, and it's next to our boat on our marina.
Right. Right.
We work all day, and we go home and we laugh. And that's the biggest thing, is to remember to do that.
Yeah, I so agree.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. It's so often in business we can lose track of that, laughing and having fun and enjoying life. You've got to enjoy this journey. If you're in business, you've got to enjoy it, because business is your other child. It's going to be there. It doesn't go away when you go home at 11 o'clock at night. It's still there, right?
Yep. And when you're tossing and turning and rolling, and it's still there. It doesn't go away.
Right.
So you may as well learn to get along.
So when you guys decided to, say, okay, well, let's go in and let's create, the tofu and stuff like that. Like, why was the decision on that? Like, why did you go pivot this way? Was it just the allergies, or was there a lot of other reasons why you went this way?
So the lion mane that you have in your hand there,
Yeah.
all the ingredients we use at Big Mountain Foods, we try to use ingredients with purpose, and everything mushroom is just so proving to be so good in every aspect of the from sustainability to brain health to gut health. The tofu was an interesting one because we're merchandised in the tofu, they call it the tofu set.
Okay.
So you find plant-based products typically in the produce department or in dairy, and they call it the Asian tofu set. And so you have tofu, then you have your meat alt, and then you'll have like veganese and krauts and stuff.
Yeah.
And being that we're allergen free option, I don't know, we just had this idea one day that we should come up with soy free tofu.
Right. Right.
Was it the right decision? I'm not sure because you can buy tofu for $2 a block. But when we're just in the process of launching that right now, and the feedback we're getting is, oh, I try to stay away from soy, so hopefully we're filling a need in the market. And I think that's important in business. You have to fulfill a need.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. If you don't feel the need, you're in trouble. I believe that there is a need where you're going. And the reason I believe, here's a great example. One of my right-hand people that I'm pretty much close with that works with my company, they try and eat healthy, but tofu, they wouldn't eat it before because it had soy in it. So they were always looking for better options that way. And they wanted to eat more healthy, but they thought, well, I don't believe that that's a healthier choice, eating that type of tofu.
Right.
So I believe there's a large market for that, and it is healthier.
And if you could make products that are exactly like the product you're after, and it's digestible and it makes you feel good, why wouldn't you? If you can have a fava bean tofu that functions like a soy tofu and you're not compromising what you're after for that recipe, why wouldn't you get one that's better for you?
Yeah, it just makes sense.
Yeah, one size fits all kind of concept.
Right. So how many people work with you guys now?
Gosh, there's about 43 of us in our facility.
Right.
A year and a half ago, there was only 9.
Wow. So you've grown a lot from 9 to 43.
Yeah. We're now a national brand or an international brand. We're been doing business for about a year and a half is why we had to move. We're at 24 hours a day at our old facility in the US. So for about a year and a half now, and we're getting more and more clients every day. Yeah. And that doesn't include brokers and our sales force and whatnot.
So do your majority of sales, or is it half and half? Is it from you taking the product and giving it into stores and stuff like that? Or is it online, direct to consumer, or B2B? Where's your majority of sales?
We don't do online sales. So we just really kind of found it it's quite challenging with, the shipping. It's because everything we do is chilled.
Got it. Yeah, got it. So yours is all in store then?
Correct. And we're trying to get some partnerships with food service.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. What's been one of your biggest challenges going from 9 to 45 people? Because that's a different animal.
Mm-hmm. Luckily, our people have brought cousins, and so it's a really fantastic culture here.
Right.
Everybody has each other's back, but yeah, that's ongoing for sure. We don't have an HR person, but let me tell you, that's that's next. That's going to be the next hire.
Yeah.
It is challenging. We just in the past 6 months implemented benefits for our people.
Yes.
We just I bring, today I'm continuously doing R&D with our products to make sure that they're functional and what to do and give customers suggestions. So today I made a vegan spagna capita with our tofu that the chef has created a feta cheese.
Right.
And so I brought a big, huge pan. Yesterday, I brought chili with the mushroom crumble and the tofu cut up in little. So it's just a whole culture.
Yeah.
And they appreciate it. They say, oh my God, you're so busy. They saw me working all weekend, but I take the time to appreciate them. And so it's easy to manage when you have the respect of your team.
Yeah, that's amazing you said that, because I believe that the number one way to grow a business successfully that most people miss out on is building that culture. Even if you're a 2-person business and you're trying to get to 4, then you're going to 5, going to 6, going to 7, is that culture is going to, is going to drive that entire business, and it's how you run it through the DNA of the business. So I love that you said that. So, and I love you said, about, you're right about HR. I also think that too is, it's always good. I always say this, it's always good to the CEOs and stuff learn and become good at HR too. And I know it's a hard thing to take the hat off, but because I think that sometimes, you do bring in HR and then you're like, oh shit, culture's getting a little more messed up right now with this person. So I think if a person, if you're at a 45-person business, it's different if you're at 150, right? That's a whole different animal. But if you're at 45, I think you can still, learn a lot of the HR skill sets and be able to drive that bus yourself at that stage. I think you still can keep that control, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, a good example is for the first time, we used a recruiter to hire a position, a VP.
Right.
And we couldn't fathom the idea of paying, I think it was like $35,000 for this person. Like we were just like, this doesn't make sense, but we couldn't find the right fit.
Right.
And that was probably the biggest mistake we've ever made on a hire.
Interesting.
Because the recruiter just convinced us this is what we needed. Right. Then we were stuck in this big contract, and so that was our little experience with HR. But then when you need to let a couple people, oh, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
It's in, yeah, sorry, they have to move my car and they need my keys.
No problem.
But and then we've had to let 2 people go for the first time in 27 years.
Right.
Sorry, hang on one sec.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. First time in 27 years that we've had to let people go. And that was heartbreaking. And so we say HR because you don't want to have to do those nasty things.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. It's true. But I think you realized, like you said, you realized sometimes a small business, when we do those nasty things or lead that team properly, it saves you the $35,000 and doesn't even, you don't have, there's no potential of the culture even going sideways at all.
Right.
Right. If I'm going to screw, at a smaller size, if I'm going to screw up the culture, I'm going to screw up myself, not letting somebody else do it. I'll tell you that much.
Correct.
Right.
And you take full responsibility.
100%. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that tip. I think that's a good, it's a full transparency and shows that we all make mistakes, a lot of mistakes, and that's how we learn and that's how we get better at growing our businesses.
Absolutely.
Right. We just don't want to make too many of them. Right. When it comes to money, when it comes to like money all the time, we don't want to make too many of them.
There's just not enough margins in food to be making mistakes like
Yeah.
that.
That's true. You're in a very small margin business, so the room for error is not is no slip.
Non-existent.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. Awesome. So, what are your plans for? Where do you want the company to be in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Do you ever see an exit growing it so big that you exit it and you sell it, or do you think it's always a family business? Like, where do you see you guys?
The immediate plan was to move into this facility, work here for a couple years and see the direction of where we're going. Because if you asked us this a year or so ago, it's a family business. My daughter is so passionate. And now my youngest daughter started her company, Healthy Hippo, which is a line of vegan candy sweetened with monk fruit. It's just in our family culture.
Right.
But the direction we're going now would potentially be to have an exit strategy.
Right.
But we're 100% family owned. You know, every day there's people knocking on your door to go public, to do this, you know,
Yeah.
all these, like, we have the golden answer, and the key to our success, I believe, is to stay focused, not be distracted by these, you know. Thank God we didn't do that. Look at the market now.
True. I mean, it's true. And I'm really glad you said that, because it's so easy in general, in small business in general, in a lot of areas, to get really caught up in that kind of bright, shiny object syndrome. And not just stay focused on, where we're good at, what we're doing here, how we're doing it, and sometimes when you have a good thing, it's a good thing, and then people go mess it all up.
Well, I mean, a good example is even with our product development, I won't mention brands, but all of a sudden you have products out there that are bleeding like meat, tasting like meat. Jasmine and I, we turn around and we're going, my gosh, we need, should we start coming out with products like that? And we started, doing R&D internally, her and I, and we were using ingredients like methylcellulose.
Right.
And then we just took a step back and we said, we need to stay focused. Our whole business model is to make good food with ingredients you can pronounce unless your mouth is full. And it was so easy to start thinking that whatever they're doing is, the grass is greener.
I'm glad you said that, because I think there's because I look at it like this, because people come to me obviously a lot and ask about the food, because I work out so much and I'm, buff and stuff. And they a lot of times don't know, like, in the gym, people still ask me, well, if you're vegan, how do you get protein? Right? Still ask me that question, right? In this day and age, right?
Right.
So I tell them I just eat 1 pea and my muscles just grow. It's that easy for me.
The seed.
and this pea is $10,000. I'll sell it to you for.
There you go.
But I feel that in the whole space, I look at Beyond the Meats and these type of products as something where I go, and let's say I go to Cactus Club or people from North America and stuff. It's a restaurant here in Vancouver, and I have a Beyond the Meat burger. Say, Beyond the Meat burger there. To me, that's like a treat. So it's not, it's like, I look at it like it's not the healthiest. Like, it's something I'm not going to eat every day. It would be like somebody eating from the meat industry bacon every day, right?
Right.
It's not the healthiest thing. It's like my treat when I go out. It's like my cheat food, kind of. But then I have my clean food over here that I eat all the time. And I think that side of the whole vegan industry is going to really come along. I think that there's been a lot on this side now of that type of stuff, and more, kind of treat food and comfort food and all that. But I think there's a whole nother side over here. If I was going to go into the fitness business again, I know I would go and build a big brand around, here's the cleanest ingredients. Here's how I can get you super healthy. Here's how I can help you live longer here, in that space. And I think there's that, I see them two different things, two completely different things in the industry.
Mhm. You're right. And we're hearing that, people coming up to us and saying, we really appreciate what you're doing. We think that the industry is going to go back to basics. I mean,
Yeah.
we're like the original kind of plant-based products, the lentil burgers and all that. And I think there is a need for that. I mean, there's people that really crave that. That are flexitarians that go, if I'm going to eat a veggie burger, I don't want it to be a cheap version of a hamburger.
Yeah.
I want to eat a veggie burger.
Right. 100%. And it's clean, and
Yeah.
it's healthy for you. So it's something that I'm going to have twice a week, 3 times a week in my home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to do, is fill that niche. And then as soon as people see you're succeeding, then they turn around. And it's just kind of interesting when you look at ingredient decks of food out there, and you go to the website of some of these bigger companies, and it'll show like the yellow split peas, on the field, and they'll show a cracked coconut for like the coconut oil, when it's just powders and mixes and
Right.
slurries. And it's so frustrating, because we really are taking the whole split pea and rehydrating it and grinding it. And we really do that.
Yeah. It's really that clean. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that, I mean, you guys are story-based, story-based brand that's got to keep telling that story over and over and over again, because there's that market there that wants to buy that, but just doesn't know that story, doesn't know what you just said there, doesn't know the difference of how that's being packaged and perceived, and how your guys' really is, the truth is.
Yeah. I mean, but it's difficult when, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's 100%. There's no easy solution when you're going against, companies that have $1 million budget of marketing a month, right, type of stuff. But like I said before, kind of off the record, I think that we've got a good opportunity as small businesses to be able to build community like we didn't have before, because of the internet, because of online. We're able to build, a strong community, a strong database of people, and they're looking to do business with companies that have higher purpose, that are doing good in the world. There's a big market for that.
Mhm.
And so, I think it's an easier time now to get to them almost than it was years ago, because like, even when I think back, and when you would have had your businesses, back in the day, I mean, to get the word out, like you had to market in the newspaper, radio. There was nowhere else to do it, right? You're like, I need to, like, you're not going to take out the front page, because that's the big boys using that, and there's just no other way. But now we can get on here and do podcasts, and people can listen and get out there. So I think there's a bigger opportunity nowadays in the market for us, for small business.
100%. I mean, when we started, there wasn't even such thing as a cell phone. Now you go to these shows. I was telling you, I did the associates expo for Walmart Global in Arkansas, and person after person after person was taking pictures of our packaging. I said, "Oh, what are you doing with that?" Well, they have an internal social media within the organization. And it's just that easy. Pick up your phone, point it to the product, and boom, hundreds of people are hearing about it. You're not even doing it yourself.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
man, it's the world of information. It's all there.
It really is. I think with you guys, to keep scaling, you've got to almost look at, you're got to go in the content creation business and the education business. And
Yeah.
that's your business. That becomes your business. You almost become a media company. And that, in the end, the byproduct moves the product in the end. So
Once.
yeah, it's a different way to look at it a little bit, than we're used to looking at it. But I think that's the way that, most small businesses need to go to penetrate the market. I look at a lot of what we do is, I mean, podcasting and all this stuff and everything, people wouldn't look at it. But I mean, we build a lot of business from doing all this stuff. We really do. So
Fantastic.
yeah,
Yeah, you got me. In the hour I've spent with you, I've got 10 fantastic ideas written down here. You're brilliant. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're so welcome. Well, that was a sweet thing to say. I'll say to my team right now, hey, you guys, when you're watching this, make sure you cut that clip. Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been a fantastic interview. Me and you could talk forever. We talked an hour before, and then we're like, we better do the podcast, right? We're not going to do the podcast. So where can they all, find you guys at? Website, social medias, anything like that?
Bigmountainfoods.com. We're on Instagram, so all the social media channels. And then in retail, you typically find our products anywhere where you would find tofu.
Awesome.
That's typically where you'll find Big Mountain Foods. So the dairy section or the produce section.
Cool.
And we're 91% penetration in the Canadian market, and we're entering the US market. So go find us. Give us your feedback.
And does it have also on your website the stores that they can find?
It does. We're continuously trying to keep up with that, but it does.
Yeah, I can imagine that. That's an ongoing thing to try and keep adding everybody on there.
Oh gosh, you win some, lose some, it's a never ending job, but yes.
Yeah. Awesome. So everybody go check them out. Make sure you try their stuff. They're doing good stuff in the world. They're changing the world, and you want to support local and small business around the world too, as well too. And thank you so much for this, by the way. I really appreciate you guys and you coming on and doing this wonderful interview with us.
Thank you. I'm leaving this meeting with great inspiration. So thank you for having us.
Awesome. You're so welcome. Take care, everybody. Talk soon.